And is it easier to find 300 customers willing to spend $100, or is it easier to find 30 customers willing to spend $1,000?
I'd actually say the luxury route is easier. The target is a bit sharper. So I feel like 3,000 people, you've got to create something for everyone.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Design Exchange podcast. I'm your host, Thomas Grové, and with me from
The Philippines or Vietnam.
Daryl Villanueva from Bandit 9 Motorcycles.
Hey, guys.
We are talking to you from the hospitality of, tell us about this shop here.
It's Royal Enfield. And Royal Enfield is and was a British motorcycle company born from the war. And they're here in Vietnam now, and their holding group has Harley-Davidson, Triumph, and Royal Enfield. So we're here in one of their showrooms.
Oh, great. Yeah. So thank you, Royal Enfield, for letting us chill here today. I think one of the cool things about this location is that one of your bikes is here.
Yeah, that's right. So we did a collaboration, I think it was last year. Royal Enfield Saigon asked me to make a motorcycle for them based on one of their models. So it took us about a year, actually, to complete that one. And about halfway through that build, Royal Enfield UK called me and asked me to do one for them, too. So, we only had about 3 months, actually, to build the second one. And that's the one that you can see over there.
So Daryl is a motorbike designer.
Am I?
A motorbike artist. He has a motorbike company called Bandit 9.
Yep.
Most of the stuff you guys make is limited edition.
That's right.
Yeah.
Most of the pieces that we do are limited edition, and they're always limited to about 9 pieces each. And then we'll retire it. Yeah, and then we'll have to create something new. The reason we did that is because... Why did I do that? I did that because it kind of forces me to come up with something new and not bank on some... a hit design, for example. So I constantly want to just push.
So I don't know how much detail we'll get into the history of Bandit 9 because you were gracious enough to do a presentation that is actually the most watched watched video on our YouTube channel.
Is it really?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, that's good. That's good, man. That was fun, actually.
Yeah. And you go into a lot of the detail about the hows and whys to the founding of Bandit 9. Mm-hmm. So I suggest you check that out. There'll be a link in the description or up here in the card thing. There.
Okay.
Yeah. And before doing Bandit 9, you were a advertising type person.
Yeah. So I'm not a mechanic. I'm not an engineer. I'm not even a 3D guy. But I guess my professional journey started in the United States. Yeah, I studied graphic design there. And while I was still a student, I was already hired in an advertising agency. So that's where it all really started. And wow, I think I was only 18, 19. Yeah, so I spent about 10 years there, going from Los Angeles to Dubai to Vietnam and then Beijing. Yeah.
You have a bike called Dark Side.
Yes.
Now, is that Dark Side like the...
Star Wars Dark Side?
Like the Dark Side of the Force, or is that Dark Side is it the DC comics?
No, it's actually Dark Side of the Moon.
Like Pink Floyd?
Yeah, kind of, I guess. Because it was what I said about the Dark Side is it's kind of a moonshot. Okay, it's our first relatively large motorcycle build, and it's quite complex as well. So if you take a look at the tank, it's got a mixture of this round, portion that magically somehow has become a sharp edge. Yeah. So it was really, really tough to build. So
does the toughness of a build go into consideration when you decide if a concept's going to go into production?
I do very carefully, actually. I have a lot of designs that I don't use because I feel like we're not ready. Okay. So we have one called the L concept. I did that 2 years before we actually started building the bike. And that's because I knew we weren't ready. It's a really complex piece. So I had to wait for the right time to
Did it finally go into production?
It did. It did. We did it, I think, last year, actually, or 2 years ago. Geez, I can't remember now. Yeah.
Are all of your bikes rideable, or are some of them just meant to be looked at?
Let's put it this way, they function. Okay, they're all functioning pieces. Obviously, some are more rideable than others. The L concept, for example, is a little bit tougher because what I do with Bandit 9 is I try to challenge norms. You know what I mean? So with the L concept, I wanted more of like a pod racing kind of grip. You know what I mean? So it's a little bit closer and kind of feels like you're riding a horse rather than a motorcycle when you're stretched out. Yeah.
Riding a horse.
Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned how Darkside was one of your first forays into a larger engine. What kinds of like starting points do you have? What bikes do you build from? You know, or are the bikes built from scratch, or are they more like a modification of pre-existing models?
They're okay for legal purposes. Okay, especially when importing to different countries, it requires a frame and engine number, right? So what we actually do is customize, I would say 95% of the piece. So, you know, the smaller motorcycles that we've built in the past are based off of Honda 67s, Honda Super Sports, but they don't look anything like the original thing. And, you know, however, we do have to keep a portion of the frame original because of the frame number.
Just the portion with the number?
That's it.
Is that right? That's original.
That's all that's left.
I mean, could you cut that off and put it on a completely different frame? Welded to a new frame?
You could, but you run the risk of, for example, customs officers checking your VIN number. And if it has a history that belongs to a different frame, they won't allow it.
So, like, how much of a frame can you actually alter and not cross some threshold of customs officer ire?
For example, if I take a Harley VIN and slap it on a Triumph VIN, that's going to be a no-no. You know what I mean? But if I use the original Harley Davidson frame and chop the hell out of it, I'm pretty sure it'll go through. I don't want to push it, though.
All right. So you're starting with the engine and frame. When you are prototyping your, I know prototype is not even the right word, but when you're first concepting.
Yeah.
Actually, what's your concept process like?
What's my concept process like? That is difficult. Whenever I'm starting something new, okay, I actually don't look at motorcycles. You know what I mean? I really look at, my original source is usually sci-fi, anything sci-fi. So I'll, you know, check out a movie or read books even. And, you know, if anything catches my eye, I'll know it and I'll try to design something around it. Yeah.
But then, since you do have to, I guess, work around the confines of a frame, do you like start with an image of the frame and build on top of that? Or?
Yeah, that's a good question. I basically have a general vision, you know, a silhouette almost in my mind of what I want this thing to look. And so I'll work backwards from there. So I'll decide the frame that kind of best fits that vision. And then we'll take it from there. And I'll start, you know, like you said, start with the frame. And then I'll start adding the body and the details and things like that. And then we'll have a final concept sketch.
Do you take like photos of existing pieces of metal and then reposition them on the in Photoshop?
So,
or
that's right. So I'm not a 3D guy, I told you. So I have to do what I can with the tools that I have, and one of them is Photoshop. So I've been doing that for years. And yeah, I'll take pieces of metal or even random things like musical instruments, and start putting them on the motorcycle. It really depends on the situation.
Yeah. Well, how much of like the finished render is painting, like with the Photoshop paintbrush versus a
imagery?
Yeah.
So we have a project coming up. I don't know when this is going to be released.
Good question.
But it's still a bit top secret. But for the next motorcycle, it was probably... Actually, I drew most of it. The things that I didn't draw were like the wheels and the engine, because I want to keep the proportions correct. But the frame and the body itself are all sketched.
I find it sometimes when somebody is describing an image, like specifically an image, like the visual appearance of something.
Yeah.
How would you visually describe Eve?
Okay, that's a difficult one. I can't remember how I remember how I discovered it, actually. What I mean by discover is that's where I find sources of inspiration in random places. And the Eve was actually based off a doorknob that I saw. And I just had this vision of this kind of bullet imagery that's on top of the Honda 67. So how would I describe it? Bullet is too easy. I actually think it feels more like a musical instrument to me, the way the curves are. Yeah, like a French horn, for example, or even a trumpet. Yeah.
So it's, for those listening to the podcast, the Eve was one of Daryl's first bikes that he made after relocating his company from China to Vietnam.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right. Jeez.
And in some, I've seen you in your writing on your fan page make mention of the fact that Eve has a special place in your heart because it's kind of, you had press on your previous bike designs.
Yeah, that's right.
But Eve kind of was so iconic in its appearance. It just screamed from the page of a magazine. It would scream from the page of a design blog.
Right.
And it's really attention grabbing. Mm-hmm. And if I was to just paint you a visual picture with words, if I was to describe it, is based on a Honda 67.
Yeah, that's right.
It's I would say very low. So like from the handlebars all the way back across the whole body to the tail, it's almost one height.
Right.
And then the main body looks kind of like the main body of the original Starship Enterprise.
Yeah,
where it's cylindrical, a bit rounded at the front and coming to a tapered point at the tail.
Yeah, that's about right.
The whole thing in chrome.
Yeah, that's right.
Just perfectly mirrored chrome.
Yeah.
With mirrored surfaces, they show off imperfections pretty well, right? Any kind of reflective surface would...
I think that's a good thing, actually.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a bit of a balance because the motorcycles are handmade. You know what I mean? It's really a blacksmith hammering this thing out of a flat sheet of metal. And I feel like if you take a look at stock motorcycles, yes, they're perfect, but they also feel kind of cold at the same time. So the imperfections are kind of nice, in my opinion.
Yeah. As long as they are skillful imperfections.
Right. Yeah. So I feel like there are a lot of, especially in watches, how they say that they're handmade. Yeah, they're handmade, but, a machine kind of like punched these things out and then they're hand polished, for example, or hand assembled. But to really cut things out of metal, and kind of like Tony Stark that thing is a different skill altogether, Tony
Stark that thing. which works of fiction are the most, inspirational to you?
For my designs?
Either way, like in your life or specifically to your bikes.
Works of fiction. Well, that's tough, man. Because I like all science fiction, actually. I like the science fiction that's a little bit tougher, that requires a lot of thought. So anything that has to do with time, I usually, I'm usually really into.
Does that include time travel?
Yeah, that's right. So anything with time travel, I find really interesting. I really like Interstellar. You know what I mean? So they've got a lot of proper science into it, which is really cool. And the designs are pretty nice. They're not out of this world. You know what I mean? But they're pretty far out there at the same time. It feels like they really function. So that kind of stuff I do like. I also like retro stuff. Things like Blade Runner. You know what I mean? That guy just died. I forgot his name.
The book guy or the movie guy?
The concept artist behind Blade Runner just passed away, unfortunately. But he's got some really iconic looking illustrations. Pretty cool.
I think one topic that would be kind of interesting to know about is the difference between the design of a product and the art direction of that product's advertising.
Mm-hmm.
So you make a bike, right? You design the shape of the bike itself, but then you have to create promotional images.
That's right.
And those are also things that have to be further designed or,
right.
So.
And that's where I'm the biggest prick, I would say, actually, because I know it super well. You know what I mean? So motorcycles, I'll happily admit I'm not, I don't claim to be a super expert guru or anything like that. But I do have some pretty professional background when it comes to marketing and imagery. So I'm really picky about that.
But do you make most of those images yourself, or do you work with other artists or studios?
Right. So fortunately, during my ad days, I met a guy named Jeremy Wong from Nemesis Pictures, and he's from Singapore. So fortunately, he likes what I do, right? And he likes to come down and shoot these bikes. So I owe him quite a lot. On top of, after the shoot. By the way, the shots are pretty much perfect. You know what I mean?
You mean before post?
Before post. It's like perfectly lit. We do it in one go. We don't shoot the tank, then shoot the wheels, then, you know what I mean? And piece it together in Photoshop. We don't do that. It's just shot in one go. So that guy's a craftsman, sorry. But then I'll take over in post. And he makes my life actually quite easy. I don't have to do much. All I have to do is clean it up a little bit. Let's say the floor, for example, or any slight reflections, especially with my bikes. It's really tough because it's all chrome. And then I'll give it a look. You know what I mean? How the images are art directed, for example. That's when I take over.
Right. You have, I would say, two kinds of images that you would make for something like this. You have the just straight up product image,
right,
on probably a white background.
Yeah.
But then you have your more emotional images with the smoke and the black. And
right. That's what you mean.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah. I'm very changeable. You know what I mean? So it depends really on the motorcycle, and it depends how I feel.
So I'm going to throw up the advertisement, I think, for Dark Side.
Yeah, the Dark
right
Side.
Here.
Yeah. It looks pretty crazy.
It looked like it looked like Kylo Ren before there was Kylo Ren.
Thank you. Started that. That's right. Actually, what we were going for was a Destiny kind of look.
Yeah.
You know, a hooded figure with a gun. And at least at the time, in the custom motorcycle scene, you don't see a lot of fun imagery. It's always pretty much straight up photography and not even great sometimes. So yeah, with the dark side, since we were already pushing our limits, we might as well do it in every aspect. Yeah.
Did you ever watch shows like American Chopper?
Yeah, I did actually. It's too much reality, reality for me.
Too much reality?
But actually, I was watching it so I could pick up a few tricks. And to be honest with you, I can't remember what tricks I picked up. But to see these guys struggle, to experience the same struggle, it's kind of comforting.
All right.
Even with these, super pros are struggling. So
What are when those guys are making choppers, right? They're starting with Harleys in most cases.
Yeah,
I guess Harley frames and engines, kind of like you might do.
that's right.
But from that point forward, is like what they're doing similar to the kinds of thing you do, or is it quite different?
It's quite different, I would say. Okay. I know that they do in-house projects, but I also know they take on a lot of clients, and they'll usually, well, yeah, obviously they're paying for it, appease the requests. Okay. I don't like to do that because after 10 pretty brutal years in advertising, I'm tired of taking requests. You know what I mean? Especially when they kind of screw up the integrity of the bike or the ads.
Okay.
I'm never going back into advertising, even if I fail.
Well,
Nobody's going to hire me anymore.
I mean, are you failing, or are you doing well in your business?
Yeah, we're doing okay. We're doing pretty good, actually. We're very, very lucky, I would say. Never in a million years that I think I was going to survive as long as I did. You know what I mean? Purely doing Bandit 9.
What did you think that you were going to be doing? Like jumping into a startup is pretty scary. There's a lot of things to consider. Like, did you save up enough money to be able to, eat while you pursue something that may not generate income for some amount of time?
Right.
And sometimes when you're doing that scary thing, you're like, well, I have this backup, or some people not. Maybe just jumping off a cliff and it's this or die. So
I didn't really dive into it. You know what I mean? I still held my advertising job, fortunately, so I don't have to panic when there's no orders.
So you'd made more than one bike before you quit your full-time advertising
I made
job?
5, actually, before I quit my full-time job. I wanted to see, dude, there's so many unknowns when you start a business, right? And what I wanted for sure was to make sure that the decisions I made were good business decisions, not based off, goddamn, I'm hungry, my rent's coming up, I'll slap together a few things. So I was pretty conscious about that at the start. And I wanted to prove that, it was going in the right direction, that I can leave my full day job.
But it also sounds like you didn't want to make short-term business decisions. You didn't want to be forced into selling a bike or adding a feature to the bike because you needed to ship it now. You kind of wanted to. I'm really guessing at this point.
What do you mean by that?
Oh, well, because you said you didn't want the fact that you need to eat to force business decisions.
Right. That's correct. Yeah.
I'm trying to kind of elaborate on what that might mean.
What that might mean.
Yeah.
Let's say I get out of my day job, right? I feel like reality is going to hit you very quickly if you're not prepared. So if you're renting or if you got a mortgage, that's additional weight on you. If you have children or a wife, that's going to put a bit of pressure on you. Food, pressure, I don't know, anything, right? And I didn't want to, I wanted to separate that from making my business decisions. So my game plan was to, number one, learn the business a little bit, understand, who's interested, who wants to buy, is this actually going to be feasible? And if it's trending towards yes, Okay, check. And the most important move that I made was I saved up. I saved up enough cash for about a year of complete failure. So I don't have to worry about having a roof over my head, food, whatever. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how long how long between the time that you left your full-time job was it until you launched Eve?
About a year, actually. Oh, I'm sorry. But when I left my full-time job
Yeah.
to Eve,
Or you were doing it full-time in China before?
I did. I was doing it full-time, actually, now that you mention it. I did it for about 3-4 months. So I left my job, and then I kickstarted Bandit 9. And then I had 3-4 months before I moved to Saigon. And the reason is, this is bad. But the reason is, I wasn't liking who I was becoming in China. I was trying to think of a nice way to do it, so I'll just talk about myself. But life there is harsh, I would say. The way people treat each other, at least from what I saw, I didn't like it. So I remember the time that I really realized it is I was going home, and it was like really, really cold. Okay, maybe not minus 20 degrees. It's snowing. And I passed by this fight, a guy holding a plastic chair versus a guy with a broom. And I just walked right in between them, like, excuse me, as if it's normal. And that's when I realized that, I've been so desensitized to this kind of behavior and, what's the word? Not so friendly environment. That when I came back to Vietnam on vacation, yeah, I just saw how people are supposed to treat each other with kindness. That's what I love about this country, actually.
And how long have you been here now?
Sorry, distracted by that. Since 2014. So, geez. Oh, man. I think I just turned 6 here. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, maybe on the dot, man.
6 years ago from the date of this recording, not the date of this airing.
Right. It's 2021 now.
What's the top secret information?
I don't even know, man. Nothing really. Top secret information. Okay, sure. We're going to do something with Triumph.
Oh.
Which is pretty cool. And this year, I'm trying something different with Bandit 9. We're going to release less motorcycles. Actually, we're going to release one and see how that goes.
Okay, less designs, but more copies of each design?
No. Actually, it's going to be one design. Same story, limited edition. But it's going to be at a different level. A much higher tier.
Okay.
And I've been wanting to do this for some time. Maybe a year or two now. But I haven't been able to achieve it because we're too busy. And if we're going to take it to the next level, I need my guys completely free and focused. Yeah.
Is that next level means it's more complex or more expensive materials or?
All of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the design is much more complex. In fact, I don't even know how to put it together myself in my brain. It's going to be done with precision machines. We've never done that before. That means it's going to require 3D work, which we're about to do, and the materials themselves. So depends when this comes out, but I'm planning to do the whole thing in leather, actually, the main body work, completely enclosed in leather.
Do you need a leather worksman?
Maybe if you have one.
Because I got a guy.
Oh, that's good, man. Yeah, it's so sure, why not? The design is based on a mobile array. It's kind of like a stingray, underwater creature stingray. So what I was actually imagining was trying to do the whole thing in stingray leather.
Like the actual
Let's
animal.
see what happens.
It might be more water resistant.
Yeah, it's good, man.
know.
No, it's a really nice material, you know. So if you've ever seen stingray leather, it's got these tiny bumps.
I've touched a live stingray, but I've never seen stingray leather before.
Yeah, I see. No, it's cool, man. So I don't know if that's going to happen. It's just an idea right now, and it's secret.
All right. Well, if you're hearing this, it means the secret's out. And hopefully that's okay.
Cut.
What would you say to anybody out there who is like, I'm a designer, but I've never designed a motorbike that ended up becoming a motorbike? I mean, there might be someone who sketches bikes in their notebook, but they've never actually commissioned it to be made in real life or made it themselves in real life.
So would I recommend? I mean, what would my advice
What could
be?
they do? I mean,
No,
do you get the full satisfaction out of it just being an image, or is there a new level of satisfaction when you actually see it in the reality?
You know, actually, there are guys that do concept designs for motorcycles strictly. And whether or not it gets made is, I guess, up to a client who may want to commission it. But I have seen some guys team up. A guy that strictly does concept designs with a guy that machines. Yeah.
And
so, what was your question? I'm sorry.
I mean,
Jeez.
it's more like a advice for aspiring transportation designers. What would
Well, it depends, right? I think it depends on what you want to do, really. So if we stick to the motorcycle category, what is it that you like to do? Is your dream to work for a company like Harley Davidson, Triumph, or Royal Enfield? Or do you want to start your own business? Simply making concept designs? Or it really depends. But I would suggest you just go for it, especially if you're young. You've got time. You know what I mean? Not like us, man. We need our shit together.
I kind of been hammering on this topic because if you have an idea for a piece of fashion, you can go to a tailor with some cloth and your drawings, and they will make it happen in a few days.
Sure.
But the cost and time and materials to make a motorcycle are just so much. I mean, if you look at the cost of a shirt or a suit,
right?
You can buy a suit for $100.
Yeah.
But how much can you buy a motorcycle for?
Well, the good news is if you have a concept sketch, it kind of removes that particular item from the budget. You know what I mean? But it does get kind of costly, especially. It depends who you go with as well, you know? So the guys that I know can range minimum, okay, maybe $70K to 6 figures, easy. Yeah.
$70K, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is like if you were a design student and you're like, I've got my design, I want to have it materialized into reality. The reality could be you're facing
a $70K
$70,000 to see your prototype.
Well, you know, the thing that I would advise students to do is to just ask. You know, I always say this: is just pick up the phone and call the place and see what's possible. You know, maybe they'll even do it for you for free or at a fraction of a rate. You know, especially if you're an aspiring designer, maybe they can help you out. The guys in the industry are very friendly, actually. You know, they're very generous with their time and their advice and their wisdom. So really, if you want to get into this, I really suggest you just pick up the phone and try.
And is that like this? The guys in the industry? We're talking Vietnam. We're talking rest of the world. Both.
Yeah, I'm talking about the rest of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, all Vietnamese people are pretty nice, so you know what I mean. But the rest of the world is really friendly. So I know guys from the west of the United States to the east, and they're all really cool. Same with the Europeans, actually. When I started out, I just simply actually called them and asked for advice. You know, I sent them my work. I told them, hey man, what do you think? What's the next step? What would I do next? And they were like really, 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 really helpful.
Do you have any plans to ever make an electric motorbike?
That is one of the top secret ones, actually. The tricky part is the engineering. So I haven't found a guy that is well versed in electric motorcycles. And that is the missing piece right now. I already have a design here. The problem is I don't have a team assembled for electric bikes yet.
I have a friend making an electric car here.
Cool.
Maybe you have some advice.
That would be good, actually.
Kind of a small 3-wheel
cool.
Or kind of like that idea.
Is it 2 wheels in the front, 1 wheel in the back kind of thing?
Something like that. Or it might be 4 wheels. I think it's 2 in the front, 1 in the back, though.
Right. That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
It's like one of those classic, is it a Morgan, I think? Is that what you call those? I think Morgan has those, 2 wheels in the front, 1 wheel in the back.
Maybe I'll have him on 1 or 2 episodes after this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just doing it. He's doing it, self-funding it to.
Cool.
Because his friends said he couldn't.
Oh,
So
really?
he's like, okay, I'll show you.
That's it. Yeah. That's how you get started.
Now I'm gonna make a electric car.
Yeah. Damn. Maybe I'll see if I can collaborate with this guy actually.
Because he might understand like the electric part of the equation.
But I'm actually interested in doing a car.
Oh well.
And customizing a car or just designing a car from scratch. The problem I always said about designing a car is there's a lot of work involved.
I think it would depend on. I don't think it's necessarily more work than a motorcycle. I mean, you got 2 more wheels, but
right. For me, what I'm imagining is the exterior.
Yeah.
So besides the production of it, designing the exterior, right? But I feel like the interior, I'll go crazy with. You know what I mean? Like, how do I design the steering wheel, all the little knobs, and all the speedometers and gauges? They're all really cool opportunities. You know what I mean? So I feel like it would take me years.
Yeah, depending on how fleshed out you want all that to be.
Yeah.
Teslas are kind of known for their sparse interiors.
Right.
They don't really have knobs, just a big iPad.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, actually. I've been inside a Tesla a couple of times, and there's just something about it, It's pretty cool. Even the way you just touch the doorknob, and that doorknob pops out.
Oh, yeah.
Is it by waving at it? I can't remember. Or you just touch it?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I saw a video by Rich Rebuilds of his door knob getting stuck in the ice.
Oh, really? Oh, that's crazy.
It's too cold outside, too much ice for it to pop out, and then he couldn't open the door.
What'd you think of the Cybertruck?
I love it.
Me too, man.
Yeah.
Me too.
Some people don't love the Cybertruck. I don't trust those people. I would not trust somebody who doesn't like the Cybertruck.
Yeah, I don't get it.
It makes sense in many ways. Yeah. Like it's I mean, the thing that I first thought of when I saw it was that they had such production hell with the Model 3 that he was probably like, okay, what's the simplest car we can build then?
Right.
That's what I would do in his situation. If I was in production hell on something, I'd be like, okay, for our next project, we're going to pick the easiest thing to make.
Right.
Instead of the hardest, most complex curves and all this stuff. Like, what is this? How do we pare this down? How do we make it more simple?
Right. That's cool, man. No, I really like it. It looks like a, the hell do you call it? Like a DeLorean.
It does look like a DeLorean.
Right?
Yeah.
But kind of tanked out. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's basically a tank too, right?
Yeah, it looks really cool, and I can't wait to see it in real life, actually, and how big this thing is. Because it's supposed to be pretty
It's
big. Right?
as big as a Ford F-150.
It's been a while since I was in the States, so.
Yeah.
But those, do you have F450s?
Do you see that truck?
Yeah.
It's at least as big as that.
Jeez, man.
It just went.
But it's pretty spacious, right? Apparently.
It's should be more spacious than a typical pickup truck because they don't have a tube frame.
Oh, okay. Oh, right.
And they don't have a drive shaft.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, it's just what do you call it?
Because it's all direct drive
right.
at the motors, so they don't need a big pipe going from the engine to the tails. So that drive shaft stuff causes pickup trucks to be like the seating area to be really high off the ground.
Yeah.
And also, so to get into the Tesla Cybertruck will require less stepping up in a way, and also you'll have like more leg room and things.
That's pretty cool, man. I'm a fan, I must say, and what I like most about it is the balls behind it. You know what I mean? It's a ballsy freaking move.
From the announcement keynote, he showed like the three competitors, the Chevy and the Dodge and the Ford.
Yeah.
And pictures 3 in a row, and they all look the same.
Exactly.
It's like everything looks the same, and it's looked this way for the last, and he gave probably some real number that I don't know.
Right.
50 years, 100 years, whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, why just keep doing the same thing everyone's already doing? Why not do something different?
Right. It's the same. Actually, it's the same thing when I started Bandit 9. If you remember the presentation that I gave for DX Saigon a long time ago, I kind of did a similar thing. The motorcycles today look kind of similar, and I don't understand why.
You did say exactly that.
Yeah, that was before the Cybertruck too.
Many years.
I got Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
Cybertruck. But I'm not saying that we make, bikes as cool as Cybertruck. That's not what I'm saying at all. But it's the same question that we ask all the time. Why does it always look the same? So, yeah, that's why I invented Bandit 9, is to just really just push the hell out of it. And we get a lot of hate for it too.
Really?
Yeah, like Cybertruck.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I get hate mail. It's pretty cool.
Dear Daryl, your bike offends me.
Yeah, like that. You think I'm joking, man? I'll send you a sample.
Okay.
You can put it online and shame that guy.
What objection could people have? It's all looks and not that functional or something like that, or?
Yeah, that too, when they haven't even tried it. You know what I mean? The proportions are actually the same, as in it looks like you're stretching out on the bike, but actually it's just the same as these guys. Another thing I get is that it's more the traditionalists. It's traditionalists that really don't like my stuff. They actually said, you're ruining motorcycles. As if that will have any effect on what I do.
Oh.
Yeah.
Motorcycles were so great until Daryl came along with Bandit 9 and...
That's it, man. That's it. It's pretty annoying, I must say. I know I say that I don't get too, what do you call this, affected by it. But actually, whenever we get, published on a motorcycle blog or, there's a lot of, I don't know if they're trolls, but, there's a lot of comments. Usually it's negative. And it's pretty discouraging. So I have to make sure that my guys don't read that stuff because it's pretty disheartening. You know what I mean? Especially if you're not used to it.
This is a tough one because part of me likes being critical.
Sure.
Right? I love criticizing stuff.
Right.
I think that's part of being a designer, right? If we weren't critical of stuff, then we would never. What would we do?
Yeah. Well, it's not critical. There's a difference between critique and just being a dick. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of ones puke or meh or yeah,
Oh,
whatevs or, pass. So things that are kind of more destructive. If somebody said, oh, maybe it would be cool if it was more like this, or I'd love it in black, or, I'm not sure that the round mirrors go with the square body, for example, I'm fine with that. Doesn't mean I'm going to do it. You know what I mean?
right.
But I wouldn't mind hearing things like that. But it's just, it feels like they're trying to, get you to engage. And I won't.
You can't feed the trolls, is what I've heard.
All right. That's it. That's a good way to put it. Yeah. Otherwise, dude, I'm going to start fighting the hell out of the troll and I'll never stop. So I really have to have that discipline to just not engage.
It's certainly nice, though, when you receive positive feedback.
Sure. I don't see it because I refuse to look at the comment section. No, the positive feedback that we get is when somebody orders. That's it. That's all that matters, actually, to me. We do get some very, very nice emails as well. So those really make my day. And I like to tell them that, we're actually doing this for you guys. So I'm glad that they understand what we do.
What's beautiful about your production model, meaning about 9 bikes per
Yeah.
production run per design, is that you don't need 1,000 fans, or maybe you do. Maybe you need 1,000 fans, and then,
Right.
Some percentage of them have enough money to fulfill their desire for the product. But you're not making something for everyone.
Right.
It's
No,
not
it's
the
not.
Model T
Right.
Ford
Yeah. For the
car
mass.
for everyone.
Right.
You
Definitely.
just have to have enough demand for
9.
which is, I think, if that's what your business model is predicated upon, it certainly relieves a lot of stress,
Yeah.
worry.
So the limited edition 9 actually came very early on. And the reason I did it was because 1 is a hobby, 9 is a limited edition. And it feels more like a company rather than a garage. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why I started this 9 business. The hard part about it is your revenue is fixed. So for example, if you have 3 motorcycles, 3 different designs a year, that's, help me out with my math, 27 pieces. So you're locked in place when it comes to revenue. So the question that I've been trying to figure out is, and this is a financial thing, okay? How can I make more by doing less? Does that make sense?
Hence the 1 bike for the year thing.
Exactly.
That's going to be an expensive bike.
Yeah, let's see how it goes. So this could be the very last time you see us.
Wow. That's always the question. Back when I was designing a motorbike jacket, and I'm trying to hit a
remember that.
certain price threshold because I was intending it for the Vietnam market.
Right.
At about that time, I was at an airport and there was an Hermes store, and they had a
Right.
jacket that was kind of the same materials as mine.
Sure.
And they were charging $3,000 for their jacket,
Oh my goodness.
And then I'm like, well, I could sell 10 jackets at $3,000 each, or I could sell
1,000 jacks for $10 each.
300 jackets for $100 each.
Right.
And is it easier to find 300 customers willing to spend $100, or is it easier to find 30 customers willing to spend $1,000?
I think
It was a question. I don't have an answer for that, but that was the koan that I asked myself.
yeah, it's like mass versus niche, I guess. Right. And for me, I'd actually say the luxury route is easier. You know what I mean? Because the target is a bit sharper. So I feel like 3,000 people, you've got to create something for everyone. And that is really difficult, in my opinion. And also, there's more risk up front because in order for your product to be priced aggressively, affordable, you got to pump a lot of money into, the economies of scale. You know what I mean? You got to build more for the thing to be cheaper. And that puts pressure on you because you got to sell these things before you even make a buck. Not like the luxury thing or the higher end market where, let's say I design for myself. I don't think I'm special or anything like that. I'm sure I can find 10 buyers who are exactly like me. And it won't take me, 100 different customers before I make a profit. Maybe it'll take one or two. That's it. So I don't know if that makes sense.
Another aspect, I guess, of the luxury market could be, I don't really know. So
Yeah, no worries. Me too.
love to pontificate on things I don't understand, philosophize. Is the more money you have, the less you might mind spending money, even if it's a greater amount. And if so, like the number of ultra rich people in the world is a small number of people, but maybe they don't mind just making impulse decisions on Lamborghinis every other day of the week.
Right. So I think
if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you have to save up to buy that bike.
That's right. That's right.
And
so
then you're like, I'm only going to buy one bike this year or for the next 10 years. So which one am I going to get?
Yeah.
Whereas if you are like, oh, I have a bike collection. Here's 1,000 bikes in this warehouse.
Right.
Well,
I think, I don't know if this even sounds bad. And obviously I'm not super rich or wealthy or anything like that. But I have a feeling they perceive money in a completely different way than the other 99%. Do you know what I mean? And from what I read and from folks that I have met, they're actually even more frugal than the 99%. So you would think that they're just splurging, right? But I actually think they're incredibly smart about how they manage their finances. So
that's not the target. It's like the 98th percentile.
Right. So there's a book. Okay, so there's a book called I Will Teach You to Be Rich. Do you know about this? And he talks about rich life. Okay? And basically, he teaches you how to structure your finances and try to imagine what your rich life would be. So, for example, if your thing is motorcycles or sports cars, you don't have to feel guilty about spending on sports cars. But you'll need to be brutal when you cut costs in other places. Does that make sense?
Misplaced priorities.
That's right.
I mean, that is.
That's it, man. So, yeah. So even, what's his name? Warren Buffett, who's like an ultra billionaire, right? Still lives in the same house for so many years. And it's pretty humble, especially for his,
He has a yacht, though, I think.
Does he?
Yeah.
Yeah, but for example, if you look at Justin Bieber or Taylor Swift, they've got mansions, they've got yachts, they've got, it's all over the place. But there are guys that are a little bit more humble when it comes to their wealth.
Well, how about your current clientele?
Mm-hmm.
What's the kind of different archetypes of customers that you've had?
Sure. So there are guys, I don't know how to categorize them. So we've got guys from college guys, let's say, all the way to royalty that have acquired our pieces. So some are collectors, some are museums, some are companies, all sorts. It's pretty spread out, actually. I'm trying to think if there's anything in common between all of them.
Well, I've heard stories before I don't know if this was informally from you or in a more official capacity, but you've had several bikes go to a museum or something like that,
Yeah.
right? Several bikes go to a dealership,
Mm-hmm.
and then individual purchasers as well.
Sure.
But I don't know. How about like when you release a new bike? I imagine you've got a mailing list.
Actually, I don't.
You need to get one. You need a mailing list.
I'm the worst, man.
Whenever you guys are about to release a new bike,
it.
you should at least let your
Existing current base,
your current customers know.
Right. I should. That's a good tip.
They're the ones most likely to buy another one, I would think. But if you're only making 9, like how maybe you're already sold out before you've had a chance to talk to your previous customers.
Yeah. So I mean, we've been fortunate to have made really great relationships with museums and even distributors. Let's put it that way for now. So I would tell them if I have a new design, and I have relationships with guys that are in the upper class, who have acquired more than one piece as well. So I'd usually mail those guys. I don't blast everyone. I will. But man, what was the question? Jesus.
I don't know. It was kind of like, okay, it wasn't really a question. I'm just kind of curious about the mechanics of
how I get it out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and I just feel that the dynamics must be very different when you're releasing something where you have 9 copies and you're doing that 1 to 3 times a year,
right,
versus something more mass produced, or even something that was a digital download, like if you're a musician and you have a new single out on Bandcamp,
right?
Maybe you need to sell. Again, it's getting back to the previous topic. You have to sell thousands or millions of those dollar downloads to make bank.
Right. So again, it's just my style, okay, of running a business. And I like to mitigate risk a lot. I'm not a wealthy dude. I cannot just throw cash at something. You know what I mean? I've got a family to look after too. But when it comes to my stuff, what I'd like to try and do, so for example, the Eve, I just put up the concept design online to see if anybody was willing to pitch in a deposit so that we can fund the project. So that's not me putting cash into my business. Great.
That will be in the recording for sure. That's...
Yeah, so it's not me putting cash into my business, you know what I mean? So it's very calculated, that risk.
Do you do that for all your designs? Do you sell them based on concept art before you go into production?
Yes and no. The last 2 projects, or the one that's coming up right now and the previous one. So the previous one was for a luxury department store called Lane Crawford in Hong Kong. I just approached them and said, hey, man, I think we should do something together. I want to put my bikes in your shop. And they're like, cool. And I asked for a budget, and they gave it to me. So, so I got funding for that to create, the last 2 iterations of Eve, okay, which I wanted to do especially for this store. The one that I have for Triumph, I also pitched to them. And fortunately, they gave me the motorcycle, the base, as well as the funding for the prototype. So again, it's not me, putting cash into projects. It's me finding a way to mitigate some risk. I sound like a pussy, don't I?
It's nice that it works out that way.
Yeah, I've been lucky, man. Very lucky.
Trying to think of, in like the world of game development, for instance, or even jacket or bag production, the cases where the situations where that would be the same, because I mean, normally you'll do a Kickstarter campaign and reach out to thousands of people to try to fund the game development or part of the game development or fund the garment production. So, and I guess with a game, you can go to a publisher and say, "Hey, I want to make this game," and you can sell it.
Sure.
But you'll give me advance on the development costs.
Right.
I don't necessarily know of a similar situation for fashion other than producing for a different brand.
Yeah. Sorry, excuse me. So I think it really depends on what you're doing.
Oh, actually, no, I'm wrong. In fashion, you can bring your collection to a show, not necessarily a fashion show. It could be a fashion show, but like a trade show or a fashion show. And then you take orders from buyers.
Right.
And then you go into your full production.
That's it. That works.
So that's good. All right.
Yeah, I think that's good. So it really depends. You have to be a little bit creative, I think. So it depends on what you're doing, right? If you're going to start up a cafe to a fashion line, I don't know what you're planning to do. I'm sure there is a way to make it happen. You just have to really think about it. You know what I mean? I'm not a big fan of borrowing from banks because, as I said earlier, there's so many unknowns about starting a company, and the first thing that is a certainty is that you owe $50,000 to the bank. That sounds like the wrong place to start for me. But I've never done that before, and I'm sure it's happened beautifully for everyone. But I cannot imagine doing that, especially when I don't have that kind of money to throw at a business.
I've certainly spent a lot of time bootstrapping businesses and not having customers pay for it. And I think your way sounds better.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what to the guys that you've spoken with. I'm sure they have really good advice too. I'm just going off of what I personally know, and it works for my personality type as well. You know what I mean? There are people that really believe in their business, go all in. That's great. That's not me.
I don't know if I really thought through the economics of what you did with Bandit 9.
Right.
When I first met you, but hearing about it in retrospect and thinking about it is pretty, maybe for some people obvious, but for me, kind of novel and something I want to keep thinking about.
Yeah, I've been talking to a lot of guys that want to start their businesses and people that are in the middle of it, and finances is a serious thing that I think people should try and master, especially accounting. It sounds really dry.
For a lot of businesses, when you get investment, what you would do normally is you would get investment.
Yeah.
But then you're not, it's not that you've sold a product to a customer, it's that you've sold your part of your company to the investor.
Right.
Basically.
That's it.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's like the biggest difference.
Controlling.
Like part of the reasons I think I've, in the past, try to self-fund a company is to not
I think that's right.
Take on investors. Because I saw you, I was like, hey, my friend doing motorbikes doesn't taking on investors. Maybe you have.
Yeah, but
but when the final product is more pre-sellable, where you can take pre-orders on it, that's definitely seems like a good space to be in.
Right.
There's some like apps where I'm not sure people would be really that motivated to pre-buy an app. Like you're like, hey, this is going to be $1 when it's in the app store, but you can pay the $1 now.
The thing is, I don't know. I don't know that app business. You know what I mean? But for me, and I picked this up from a book too, is that you should test your stuff. Are people actually going to buy it? Do they like it? Is there a way to do it so that somebody else funds it? You know what I mean? Not necessarily sell your company so that you get funding. That's not what I mean at all. But perhaps there's a way to pre-sell I think, yeah, even Tesla will do it, right?
Yeah, they do.
Pre-orders and things like that, even though it's not ready.
Yeah. Sometimes it could be years between your.
Right.
And the Cybertruck was a refundable $100 deposit.
Oh, it's $100.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Which is, you know, an interesting number.
Yeah.
But I think the Roadster was you have to just buy the whole thing or something.
And just wait.
Yeah.
Jeez. Well,
but it's more limited. It probably it's
Right.
not less mass market. So
yeah, I mean, that's tough to do for a company that doesn't have any credentials, I would say. So Tesla has, some history. He's got Elon Musk behind it too. So it feels relatively safe. Again, I don't have that cash to burn. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't put $30,000 into a car and wait for 2 years. I can't do that. But for guys in startups, it's pretty hard. It's still pretty hard, man, to get pre-sales. It's got to be pretty appetizing, the deal. You know what I mean?
It's weird because so many apps are basically free. Like if it was the early days of something like Facebook or Twitter,
Yeah.
you're like, we need investment. And you're like, how much do you charge for your product? And you're like, our product is free. But the
Yeah.
point is we want to get a lot of users and then we'll show them advertisements.
That's it.
And control their data, but
Yeah.
But I would guess at the time that was still a weird idea. It's like it's not really a product; it's a service, and the service is free and ad supported.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to do it. Yeah, investors. I've thought about this too, getting investors, but I'm not sure why.
Well, if you don't need the money, then you don't need to get the investors.
I mean, the thing is, obviously, I've got a big vision and pretty high targets and things like that. And an adrenaline kick of cash will certainly help us go there.
But, here's what someone might do with your brand.
Okay.
They could say, look, we're producing 9x3x productions a year, and we're hitting this kind of medium price point.
Right.
And you could say, okay, what we want to do instead is do one production run of 9 that is more expensive.
Right.
And then we want to do a production run of 30 of some other design that's less than that, and then a production run of 500 of some even cheaper, even easier to make
different tiers, right?
Design. Yeah. And now you're able to, and then also we're going to have ball caps and jackets that Thomas will make, and and now we can engage customers at different segments, but each of those things adds more headache for you as well, right?
That's true. Actually, that's a really good point, is that I started Bandit 9 because I like motorcycles, but 2, to focus on my personal life. So for me, cash is not the most important thing in the world, to be honest. Like, I value my free time a lot, actually. And that's why I work really hard on Bandit 9, is to make sure that I protect my free time. If that makes sense at all.
Does that work for you? Are you able to carve your time?
I am. I choose pretty harshly about how I spend my time. So, I'd say I don't work crazy hours, man. Actually, the opposite. You know what I mean? So, what's this called? I'd like to spend time with the wife and focus on that more than the motorcycle thing. So I'm happy with my personal life and my work life. Great. Perfect. I don't need more.
It's tough when your work life starts to overlap with your personal life.
Yeah.
Like you're supposed to be on a dinner date with your partner, and instead you're with your love partner.
Right.
And instead you're sending messages on your mobile phone to your business partner.
It actually is. It feels a little bit like cheating, I would say. I can see that, You know what I mean? Like you're supposed to be spending time with your loved one, but you're kind of like betraying him at the same time, you know, with somebody else absorbing your attention.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah.
Or canceling dinner because you have to
Right.
keep working late or whatever.
Priorities are backwards. So, and I learned that the hard way with advertising. That's why I left.
I'll say there's a couple ways that you could look at this. In one way, when you are, though I think the worst situation is that you're supposed to be doing something social together,
Right.
but you are working and they're waiting for you.
Right.
That's the worst, right? Better situation, not necessarily bad. You both have work to do and you've decided that, hey, we're going to spend the next 2 hours and work next to each other.
Right.
And then the best is probably, hey, I'm at my office and I'm working.
Right.
And then when I leave the office, I turn off work and I just focus on something else.
Right. So I like to be in the third camp, to be quite honest with you. And I did learn the hard way. I think I was number 1, option 1 for 10 years. And then, that didn't go so well, right? So I knew what was wrong, 100% my fault. And I really changed myself and changed the game where it's more about being present, So we're chatting now and my attention is completely on you. I'm not thinking about work or anything like that. Unless you ask me a question about work.
Right.
So same thing goes for my wife, is that when we're having dinner, my phone is face down and quite possibly not even on the table, So it's the same. And when I'm at work, don't bother touching me. You know what I mean? So I'm super focused on depending on what I'm doing and who I'm with.
I find that if you do have to work,
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, this is something that's come up many times
In your life?
In my life, where people are not generous when it comes to screen usage.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are in front of them and you're like, I have to do some work, and now you're in front of your laptop.
Yeah.
And now you're in front of your laptop or your mobile phone,
Mm-hmm.
and you're giving your attention to that device. They don't perceive it like you are working.
Okay.
If you were like, I want to read a book, and then
Right.
you like sat in a corner and you opened a book and you read, like if they were okay with you reading the book, they would have been okay with that.
Interesting.
So for things like work, it's something that's a lot easier to do without guilt or without shame when you are at your office and not in the living room of a friend or a loved one.
Well,
If you said, I have to go to the office for an hour to do some work,
yep.
and you're gone and you're
Yep.
working and then you come back,
Right.
it's just different than you're sitting there and your child's like tugging on your arm,
Right.
asking for your attention, and you're like,
Yeah.
not yet, I'm still working.
I understand.
It's like a different flavor.
That's it. But I mean, let me put it this way. You wouldn't read a book on a date, right?
You
That's a
might
pretty
read
funny
a
picture.
You might read a book on vacation.
On vacation.
If you went on a vacation
An
with
extended period.
with your couple,
Would you work on a vacation?
I would.
Okay. I would try my best not to. That's us, man.
Yeah.
And I'm sensitive to it. I'm super sensitive to it too. So I'll give you an example. I am on time a lot of the times, except for today. I'm usually on time. I'm pretty strict about it. So when it's the reverse, for example, if somebody makes me late, that's really difficult for me. So it's the same thing. Let's just use my wife for now. You know, I'm pretty sensitive about her checking up on her phone, chatting with other people, or doing work while we're supposed to be right there. But I don't give her shit about it. So, but I notice these things.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's terrible, huh? What about you? Does it bother you?
It's hard to answer that without being a hypocrite,
No,
because
it's all right.
like, yes, it bothers me,
Yeah.
but I will do it to someone else.
Right. I'm not sure, man. I mean, do you work in the theater when you're watching a movie?
No, like, yeah, that bothers me too. Anybody
Yeah.
who looks at their phone at all during a movie,
Exactly.
or even at home watching Netflix,
Right.
it bothers me.
Yeah.
And like, if you don't want to watch this, we can turn it off and work.
Exactly.
We don't have to watch this. Why do we
That's
have
it.
to play a game while this is playing? But I went to film school. That was my background.
Right.
So I
Cool.
kind of,
You have a certain respect for.
watching a movie
Yeah.
or TV show is like going to church for me.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like
That's
this
it.
religious experience of
It is. It is. Me too. I'm the same.
people put the effort into making the thing. So if it's worth watching at all, I want to give
Yeah.
it my respect.
Right.
A little bit
Exactly.
different if you're just listening to the news or something. I mean,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
I don't, you know.
Sure. Especially today.
But if you're watching like Stranger Things or
Sure.
uh,
Me too, man. I'm sorry, bless my wife again for this, because I'm pretty crazy about this stuff too. I don't want to be late to the movie. You know what I mean? If I miss 2 minutes of it, I'd rather not go. You know what I mean? Are you the same?
yeah,
Are you a freak too?
yeah. I hate making other people late, and I hate being late myself.
Yeah.
Though I'm often late,
Right.
but I try. You know,
Sure. Absolutely.
it's easier in some place like Japan where the trains,
Are on time.
you know exactly when you leave, what time you're going to get to where you're going.
That's it. Yeah.
It's a little harder here where there may be traffic or there may not be, and
Yeah.
how much traffic is there. It's harder to gauge that.
Yeah. It's hard to predict.
Especially if you're coming across town,
Mm.
you know. But
Yeah.
it's tough because I don't like making people late, but at the same time, I always want to get one more thing done before I go.
Ah, okay.
Be working on the computer. I'm like, I'm so close to finishing this task. If I can just finish that
Right.
and send it to the team, well,
Right.
you know, then I can
I do that.
leave with good conscience. But
Right.
those little tasks that take 5 minutes always take 15 minutes or 20 minutes or an hour.
Yeah, for me, it's priorities for me. So if I'm going to meet my wife or my dad or even a friend, I will prioritize that over work, for sure. But that's just me, man. It depends on the urgency of your task, too. You know what I mean? And I think people will understand. But generally speaking, yeah, you guys matter more.
But we can always be better in relationships. We can always
Yeah,
become
man.
better humans, despite.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things I beat myself up on,
Okay.
and at the same time, I also hold the perspective of I shouldn't beat myself up on it too much, because as long as it enters in my awareness as something that needs to be improved to some degree or over time, maybe
Sure.
it can be improved instantly. Maybe it will require a lot of effort, but we should always try to be better.
That's it, man. That's it. Every day. And be conscious about it. You know what I mean? That's what I'd say.
Do you have anything else that you want to talk about?
I have no idea, man. Oh, I do. I have a top secret project too, man. Dude, I'm writing a book. How crazy is that shit?
Fiction?
No, it's nonfiction, actually. And God, I don't like this term, but it's self-help. Okay, I don't like it because all books help, so whatever. But it's in the self-help section. So basically, what I'm doing is I'm interviewing, or I'm hoping to get 50 different motorcycle builders, designers, curators, museum curators, journalists, bloggers, anybody in the motorcycle industry. And the book is going to contain nuggets of wisdom about life, death, health, wealth, business, and adventure. So it's like a motorcyclist's guide to living life. Yeah.
How far along is that project?
Right now, I think I've got about 20. 20 guys, 20 responses already. As in, I already have their stories and their nuggets of wisdom. Out of my target was 50. If I can do more, I'll definitely do more. But I'm pretty sure I've gotten about 40 yeses already.
When you approach them, do you ask for a specific type of nugget of wisdom, or you say here are the categories that you can offer one from?
That's a good point. Maybe I should have talked to you. But I did it. I have a series of 10 questions, which took me a long time to do. You know what I mean? So, for example, one of them is, have you ever been in an accident? And chances are, yeah. So tell me about it and what did you learn? How did you feel? And that's what I'm trying to get out of the book is to, there are a lot of books about wealth from billionaires, and it's very hard to relate to. You know what I mean? But these guys are just regular Joes, pursuing their dreams. And that's the kind of stuff that I'm trying to get out of them. So, how to live life, get your priorities straight, focus on the things that matter. So it's not about cash,
Are you going to release it via Kickstarter or?
That I don't know. Actually, I am supposed to pitch it to a publisher in a few weeks, but I'm so behind on everything right now. But I don't know if I'm going to do that or I'm going to self-publish it. But it's going to be a book, not a coffee table book with motorcycle pictures or anything like that. It's going to be a normal read-through book.
Okay.
Yeah.
How much of it is going to be you writing from your voice versus how much of it is quotes or pages of text contributed by the other?
I think it's maybe the intro and the outro I'll do. And maybe I'll drop in every now and then. But I want I want their direct quotes. There's some really inspiring stuff that they've told me. And I can't wait to share it. It's really gems, I must say. And I hope it connects with people. So, for example, I've got the head designer of Royal Enfield participating in the book. And the stuff that he says, it applies to everyone. You know what I mean? So if you want to start your own business, he's got some really good advice. You know what I mean? If you want to go on an adventure, here's why you need to do it. Why do you need to travel? He's got really cool reasons as to why. And most people, in my opinion, don't know that, and they don't understand that. So it's pretty interesting.
Well, I hope that we can get a name for that, or
Sorry?
like so if depending on when this episode airs, this is probably not going to have been published yet.
No worries. Yeah, it's going to take some time.
So keep your eye out for a future book from Daryl.
Yeah. Oh, you want the name?
Yeah.
Oh, it's called Godspeed.
Okay.
That's it for now. I don't have a sub and
working title.
So let's call it Godspeed. Yeah.
Tales from Motorcycle Professionals.
Yeah, that's it, man.
Daryl, thanks a lot for being on today's episode.
Thanks.
If people would like to learn more about you or Bandit 9, where should they go? What should they check out?
Vietnam.
Come to Vietnam.
No, so you can check out bandit9.com if they want to check out my stuff.
All right.
Yeah.
And you guys have a Instagram?
We do. It's bandit9_. Somebody took my freaking name. And I have no idea how to get it back.
Thanks again to Royal Enfield,
Yes, thank
Ho
you.
Chi Minh City, for letting us crash in your showroom here.
Yeah, it's pretty
a lot
cool,
of wonderful bicycles.
Yeah.
No, can I say bicycle?
Sure. Why not?
There's two wheels.
Bicycle.
Yeah.
That's great.
Bicycles, no pedals.
That's it.
Well, there's like shifting pedals and stuff.
There is gears on the left.
Good luck on your book and on your productions this year. It'd be cool to maybe catch up in a year and see
if I'm still alive.
Your predictions came true, or to what degree.
I know. I hope so.
Well, thank you very much, and we will see you later. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Just say it like that.
That's good.